So, yeah, continuing from the last episode, as an Uber driver, I have a lot of interesting conversations, but there was one especially interesting conversation early on. My passenger was an entrepreneur, and his startup down in Palo Alto was based upon a very kind of interesting and curious premise. The idea behind it was that he provided an opportunity for his, quote, users to talk to complete strangers. He connected them via the internet. They would call up and they could really say anything that was on their mind. They could reveal their deepest, darkest secrets. And they knew that this person that they were talking to would never do anything with it. They would never see or hear from this person again. It's such a curious scheme, business premise. And I said to him, hey, why would anybody do that and not at least get a fare out of it? I'm thinking of it from the perspective of an Uber driver, and this is what we do all day long. People have told me amazing stories, things about themselves, because they know they're never going to see me again, And his response was so telling. He said, well, I live down in Palo Alto, and most of my friends are immersed in this tech world. They're tethered to their screens, and 90% of my friends are in therapy. And it occurred to me, that's kind of what that was. Therapy. It's kind of what I was doing. And in therapy, we try and get in touch with the shadows of our lives. Not too long ago, I was standing in the checkout line up at the Extra Mile in Corte Madera, and the cop came up behind me, and we struck up a conversation and told him I asked him how his evening had been going, and he said, well, he just came back from a pretty intense experience. Somebody was on the bridge. The Golden Gate Bridge. And was about to take his own life. And so he was called in there. And they managed to coax him back and save his life. And I asked him whether this kind of thing happened often. And he said, yes. He said, it's an epidemic. I said, how many a month would you say? And he said, about 40 people a month jump from that bridge. Wow. How have we come to this? last week, as I attended TechCrunch Disrupt in San Francisco, there was a fair amount of talk about screen addiction. The tech world is in the midst of soul searching right now. These tools that we have created have become monsters in some people's lives. They certainly have all kinds of positive benefits. They connect people who haven't seen each other in years and connect people across the globe. But if not used right, the shadows can start to overwhelm. And so this symbol, this icon, this bridge, which for me and for many people symbolizes connectivity, connecting two spans. Today has become a symbol of something else. Not sure exactly how to put it in words, but it's a symbol of people who have lost connectivity. They have lost hope. In my life now, some people ask and some people wonder, but don't ask. They say, what keeps you going? And I mentioned that slender thread that I call Jesse or Samantha or a stranger that I've met. But there are two other things that keep me going. The first is an unshakable belief that everything that's happening up to this point in my life, everything that's happening in the moment, and everything that will happen is happening with purpose. There's a reason for it all, and I might not understand it in the moment, but often if I reflect upon it, I will understand it. Let me give you an example. A few weeks ago, when I got my rent notice on my storage unit over in the East Bay, it was 6 months, and my rent increased 20%. So I was now paying $440 a month. And I said, that is crazy. I don't have that much of value in here. And I called and I said, how can you do this? It's only 6 months. How can you increase my rent 20%? And she said, well, we don't have control over that. The system generates it. Oh my God, the system. I said, no. Somebody inputs the data that goes into the system. Who is that person? How do they decide upon that? So she gave me the number of somebody in customer service. The customer service person gave the same mantra. And so then I demanded to speak to someone higher up. And I did, and I got the same bullshit. And I said, that's it. I'm going to move my stuff out of here, and I'm going to go into a unit that is less expensive. It was kind of a rash decision. I'm not sure it was a smart thing to do, because I got so much stuff that it became a huge job to get it all out of one unit into the other. And I'm sort of in the midst of that move, feeling very, very disassembled in my life, when something really, really strange, and it just I'm moving my iMac, 27-inch iMac, into the new unit, and I've got it balanced on a board that's sitting on a file cabinet. And I went to get some other stuff, and I came and I lifted something off of one side of the board, which tipped the balance, and the computer fell crashing to the floor, and a monitor fell on top of it, cracking the screen. This, aside from my car, is maybe my most valued possession. It's a monster machine, 32 gigs SSD drive. That was going to be the tool I needed to communicate with the world. And I'm thinking, why? Why did this happen? I managed to kind of pull myself together, and I took it over to a repair shop over in Berkeley, who managed to kind of mess it up even more. But I did learn that the innards of the computer were working fine. It's just the screen. And they said it would be $580 to replace it. And I think, okay, I'm not going to do that. And I started to live with that. And then it dawned on me. That computer was a metaphor for who I am. I may not look so great on the outside, but inside I work just fine. I've got a good heart, I've got a good mind, a good sense of balance. And so when I work on that computer now, I can see just fine through the screen. It's cracked a little bit. And this is what we're all up against. My friend Elaine wrote a song called The Crackpot. Not crackpot, cracked pot. And she says, I am a cracked pot. We're all cracked pots. But what matters isn't what we look like. It isn't what people often take in a superficial impression. What matters is what's inside. How do we deal with the shadows? How do we make ourselves whole? And as a society, this is what we are grappling with right now. We have this epidemic. 40 people a day jump off that bridge. And why is this?